Hi, my name is Caitlin Harper, and I am a Senior Associate Dean of Admissions at Lewis and Clark College in Portland. And I have brought a friend along with me to talk about Division III athletics, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Hayes. I'm the head volleyball coach here at Lewis and Clark College. We are, like Caitlin said, in Portland, Oregon, and we are a Division III institution in the NCAA.
Yeah, awesome. So we are going to talk a little bit about Division III institutions, what they're all about, why you should consider going, maybe bust some myths about Division III schools, and yeah, help you sort of shape your college search if you're a student athlete and considering different division schools. So one of the first things that I did while we were talking about putting together this video was think about what the definition of a Division III school. And while I was able to find a Wikipedia page, Emily so awesomely pointed me towards the actual NCAA Division III sort of philosophy and tenets. And there are actually three words and sort of pillars of the D3 philosophy that we're going to talk about as sort of what D3 is all about and yeah, why you should consider a D3 school. So those words are discover, develop, and dedicate. So the first one, discover, I think is a great one to start with because you are sort of in that phase right now as you are pursuing your college goals and thinking about where you might want to go. Within the D3 world, students are really encouraged to discover themselves as students, as athletes, as people, and that really plays out in a lot of different ways. You know, not all Division III schools, but a large majority of them are sort of in the private liberal arts realm, and the same mission or philosophy of this idea of being able to develop yourself and explore, you will see in the mission statements on D3 colleges and universities websites, right? So those things are going to match up, and students are really allowed a lot of space to, you know, figure things out. You don't have to know what you're going to major in. You don't know how, or you don't have to know exactly what your 4 years of college is going to look like right now as you're going through the search process. When you walk onto that campus for the first time, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to discover. Emily, from a student athlete perspective, what does it mean to sort of spend your time or support student athletes in college in this goal of discovering and that time given to discovery?
Yeah, discovery is like such an all-encompassing word, right? For the experience that we, go through as student athletes, as students really, but through this process, it really is like this path that we're going on, and it's windy and, topsy-turvy, but it is fantastic. And, I'm kind of consider myself a Division III native in a sense. I went to a Division III school and was a student athlete, and I've had the chance now to coach at a number of Division III institutions, 3 to be exact, in 3 different conferences and regions across the nation. And so really getting to see how different Division III can be, throughout those, but also the similarities and how the philosophy rings true throughout. So the discovery piece, a lot of things come to mind for sure, and you touched on it a little bit, Caitlin, is the academic freedom. So being able to, come in and not know exactly what you're going to do. And you might think that you know what you're going to do, and that might end up being true. It might end up being completely different. And I know it was for me. And so having the opportunity to come in and explore different areas, fields, and then, kind of try different things, dip your toe in them, and then dive in head first into what you kind of decide. And having the time and the freedom to do that is pretty cool. That's something obviously that any student who comes to a liberal arts institution is going to be able to do, but being a Division III student athlete, you're encouraged to do that, from everybody around you. And, I think a big thing that I think about is the ability to pursue some of those more rigorous majors while still pursuing your sport is pretty huge. And, some other divisions won't allow it, things like nursing and double majoring, things like that. Division III highly encourages you to do that.
Yeah. Are there other things that a student might be really excited to do in college that outside of Division III as a student athlete, it might be difficult? So you mentioned academic pathways, particular majors, but other choices or ways that a student might want to discover their options and opportunities. Could those be harder to pursue outside of D3 in any particular way?
For sure. I think, one that you're probably referring to is studying abroad. And I'm going to try really hard to be non-sport specific here. So not speaking just to volleyball, but other sports. And study abroad is very much encouraged at the Division III level. You are going to run into difficulties if you are perhaps a 2-semester athlete. So that would mostly be basketball, women's and men's basketball, things like that. You might try to take advantage of some of the other opportunities that the institution offers for you. But, for us being a fall sport, we highly encourage our students to go and study abroad in the spring. And while they'll be missing a non-traditional season of ours, we think that the lessons that they learn going abroad are so much bigger and, have more breadth to them than they could ever learn in 16 days of non-traditional practice. So we highly encourage it, and we think it's one of the coolest parts about Division III for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on that, Caitlin?
No, and I think it's a good transition actually into the second sort of tenet of the D3 philosophy, which is the word develop, and how students are really encouraged to be well-rounded. I loved that word that Emily used, breadth, because we do talk about it in the small liberal arts context, and definitely again as these ideas line up in the D3 context, that students shouldn't have to be narrowed into one thing or one path, or have just one hobby or one interest or one passion. That is not the way the world works. You are all complex individuals with a broad range of interests and more interests to discover. And college is another time for you to really develop all of those interests that you have, whether that is in your sport or in all of the other areas outside of your sport. So Emily, in your world, how do you see student athletes working in their different passions and interests and taking advantage of opportunities beyond their sport as a way to fully develop themselves as a person in college?
To start with, I think I would say what you just said, taking advantage of those opportunities is a really big thing. And that is on you guys as students to take advantage of what is put in front of you. I think college is such an incredible time where you have things within reach, you know, in any area you can imagine, all of these incredible life-changing experiences, but they're never going to be just handed to you. You've got to be the one to step up and take advantage of them. You know, in the recruiting process, I know that I'm pretty blunt about that, pretty straightforward when I talk to prospective student athletes. And, you know, I will tell them like, hey, you can be the best volleyball player in the country, but if you're gonna just solely focus on volleyball and you're not even gonna look at the other amazing things that our institution has to offer, then I'm not sure that this is a good fit for you, right? Like, it's so cool to see the different directions that our students will go. I'm sure that you see that a ton, Caitlin, from a more, you know, broad lens for sure. And an example I think of is, I think you might have even been on this one. We had a little virtual chat and our team happened to be on it. And a question similar to this was asked. And it was like, what are your student athletes involved in besides volleyball? And I was like, hey team, can you guys just type into the chat something else that you do besides volleyball? And it was insane, right? To see this list just grow and grow. And they didn't even realize, you know, the extent of things that they've immersed themselves in completely. And that when they leave here, it just makes them, you know, so much more well-rounded, have different perspectives coming into volleyball because of different things that they've been a part of or different leadership roles that they've held in you know, areas of the college. So it's really, really cool. I mean, specifics I could go on and on, but some of the internships that our student athletes have had are pretty impressive. You know, not just volleyball again, but we've had people who have been involved with the FBI and, you know, teaching hospitals, physical therapy clinics, and, you know, I could go on and on about that, but it's just, I think the coolest part for me is, you know, not necessarily that they're doing these things, but them coming back and being so excited about how it's influenced them. It's just pretty cool.
Absolutely. I really do see the experiences and opportunities as interconnected, right? And finding those connections is such an important part of this idea of developing as a person, that the leadership skills you develop on the volleyball court or in the pool are going to help you navigate the internship experience that you have as a junior in college that will then help you find that job when you graduate from college, and that all of those things are connected, and that, you know, wandering into a club meeting on any given day of your college career, or you know, trying out a music class could also then influence your perspective and your leadership skills in your sport. And that, again, is just all interconnected. And the more that you develop as a student and as a person to find those connections and really make the most out of them, the better you are in the end. The more sort of opportunities you'll find in the future. So the third sort of pillar of the D3 philosophy, that third D word, is dedicate. And I don't think any student listening to this video that's interested in playing a sport in college and exploring the differences between all of the divisions would be surprised to hear that it takes a lot of commitment and dedication to play a sport in college. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised by that. But what, I guess, should a student athlete be prepared for or expecting from the level of dedication in playing a sport at a D3 level? And how can they best sort of frame their minds to make the most out of being part of a D3 athletics program and having that level of dedication?
Yeah, this might be one of the most key parts to Division III, especially when it comes to making decisions, is that, you know, you've got to kind of want to be that person who wants to go above and beyond. And because this isn't easy, right? I mean, we have these expectations from the institution. You know, the common theme throughout this is that you are treated the same as any other student in the student body, and that academic excellence is a very, very important thing to us, you know, in our specific programs, in the athletic departments, and again, at the institution as a whole. And that at the end of the day, you are expected to do all of that and represent your institution on a conference, region, or national level. And, you know, I think that takes a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication, you know, and a lot of just ambition. And you can see that pretty early on in the recruiting process, to be honest. You can kind of tell when that person is, you know, itching to become uncomfortable and go past their comfort zone and things like that. And it's really exciting. It's one of the, you know, my favorite parts about the job is when I just feel it click in a sense. And I think a big part about Division III is that you are not owned by the sport, right? So you are, you're getting academic aid, you're getting need-based aid, you're getting different forms of financial aid, but none of that is athletic aid. And so none of that is the sport dictating that you know, are performing because it's the way that you're affording school. And there is a freedom to that. There's also a responsibility to that, you know, you are playing this game because you love it. And you are choosing to represent your institution because you're proud of the sport that you're involved in, the program that you are a part of, and things like that. And, you know, I think that you just really have to take that seriously when you're going through this entire process. There is a lot of empowerment that goes on and autonomy that's given to the student athletes. And you can really see the schools that are going to that extra mile in the off season. And that is the teams that are doing that. That's the student athletes, not the coaches. We are allowed to interact with them in the preseason, in our normal competitive season, and then in the non-traditional season. And that's it. That's the only time that we're allowed to be on court, on field, training them. So other than that, it's up to them to be getting into the gym on their own as a team, pushing each other. You know, and I think that instills such a leadership when you don't have the coach holding your hand, walking you through every step athletically. And it's pretty amazing to see them have a pride in what they do when we're not around.
Yeah. And they do. Like they again draw those connections between wanting to be the best that they can be, right? And have that that dedication to being successful, to realizing that they're going to have to be really self-motivated to fill those spaces when the coaches aren't the ones telling them X, Y, and Z is what you have to get done, that they have to fill that space. And that, again, there's so many opportunities in that space to learn more about yourself, develop those leadership skills that are going to help you in the future, and connect with your teammates and your community. It all, again, just sort of comes back together.
It also helps in this time too, right? Like,
yeah,
they had none of those skills, and then we were all, you know, put back in our homes by ourselves. I would be so much more nervous, but I'm so confident in their ambition and desire to continue to hold each other accountable as a team. And I ask the questions just to make sure that I'm holding them accountable, but their response back to me right now and this time is like, yeah, and we got it, you know, and that's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, can talk for a whole long time about the adaptability and willingness to jump into challenges head first as a Division III athlete. But you know, for another time,
for another discussion,
because we have some myths to bust, and Emily's touched on a couple of these already. But I do think that there they're worth just sort of putting those questions that I know that are happening in your head out of sight. The first myth about going to a D3 school is that it is going to be more expensive because you're not going to get an athletic scholarship to attend. Well, that is not true at all. And like Emily was saying before, students are considered for academic merit-based aid, need-based aid, and the aid that an institution, a D3 institution, is providing to students, whether they are a student athlete or not. So the aid is there. The students that we are enrolling at Lewis and Clark or other D3 institutions, wow, we made it this far without that just slipping out of my mouth, but go Pios. The aid that a Division III institution is providing is going to be equal across its student body, but it does not mean that it's going to be more expensive for you as a student, and it doesn't mean that it's unattainable because you aren't going to be offered a particular scholarship just because you're playing a sport. I think it's really important to think first and foremost in your college search, and hopefully some of the other videos you're watching address this, about the experience that you want and the place where you feel like you are going to belong and be able to grow. Do all of the things that we already have talked about. Figure out who you are, what your passions are, do some deep exploration, dedicate yourself to all of those passions and interests. Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? And what school is going to help you get there? Then allow yourself to have those conversations with the people in your life that are going to help you figure out admissions and finances and the logistical steps. In your college search process, your first job is to figure out where do I want to be? Allow yourself to dream and really do some soul searching about what is the best fit for you. And then let's talk about the logistics. Emily and I were talking about it earlier, that in admissions and the work that I do every day, the difference of a Division III school and not, right? What advice would I give you to applying to a Division III school isn't necessarily different. You know, our students sort of are on a level playing field, pun intended. And that is an important part of how we build our community. We want to understand who you are as a student, what your goals and passions are, and who you want to become through what the institution offers you. And those same questions are what we're going to ask all of our applicants. And then we are going to complete the financial aid award process again in a way that is on a level playing field. So hopefully myth busted. Emily, anything to add?
No, I think I would echo what Caitlin's been saying, that don't make assumptions. Like, I think that that's one of the most dangerous things that I see PSAs go through, is that they will, assume that they are going to get a, full ride athletic scholarship to, Texas A&M, and that is what they're doing, and that is it, and they don't look at anything else, and then all of a sudden they realize that they have this, brutal reality that maybe that coach doesn't need that position or whatnot, and then it's like, now what, right? I just wouldn't assume, in the same way you might assume that a Division III institution is way too expensive, like this first myth, and you might just knock it off your list, even if it's your dream school. And at the end of the day, you've got to ask the questions. You can see both of us are here, and we're human, and we are here to help you. And we both probably get, too many emails in a day, but that's a good thing, because that means that, we are able to help people and give our assistance and knowledge where it's due. And, I know that I send a ton of people Caitlin's way because, why not get the answers straight from the source as opposed to just guessing or assuming?
Right. Emily might have used Texas A&M as a personal example. But like she said way back before in the introductions, she's a product of D3 and D3 through and through. So assumptions and those falling through sometimes work out to the absolute best.
Yeah.
So another myth buster. Again, we're human. Another myth buster. You won't be able to win or be competitive if you go to a D3 school, right? The D3 automatically means lesser athletic performance.
This is probably the biggest yeah, I'll take this one. I have a little bit of passion towards it.
Yeah.
This is probably the biggest misconception that I run into. And it is, just untrue at the end of the day, that there are, I think at the beginning I said that there's such a wide range of Division III institutions, and that comes from an athletic success angle as well. And that's just being very honest, that there are schools, I played at an institution that was Division III, and we would every spring go and play against a Division I institution that I used to name and realized I shouldn't be probably calling that institution out by name, but we would play, that one and a couple of other Division I institutions and beat up on them, or take them to 5. And that was what I grew up on. So I never really even realized that was, a misconception from other people. But Division III institutions, that title means that you are desiring the Division III philosophy. And that is one of academic excellence and a holistic, well-rounded experience. It's not meaning that you're wanting one that's less competitive. And, there are institutions that are less competitive. Coaches will tell you all the time that if you want to play a sport in college and you have, dedicated yourself to it, both time, effort, all of that wise throughout your high school years, that there's probably an institution that is a good fit for you athletically. Who knows what competitive level that's at, right? And you've got to prioritize whether you want to walk into an institution and start, or you've got to prioritize if you want to just be a part of a great program, things like that. I would just say, watch the games, watch the matches, and see the level of play that's going on, because it's pretty impressive.
And there's still championship play, right? There are still goals that you get to work towards. And I think that is important to remember, regardless of division. And again, like Emily was saying, choose the program where you feel like you can have the pride and drive and dedication to, work towards that goal as an athlete that you have, no matter what you're playing or when you're playing it.
I think I would just add one more thing, and this is has nothing to do with the myth, but it's understand who you are and what you want. Caitlin was talking about this earlier, and it's there's not a right or wrong. There's such this stigma of excellence, and you've always want to be better than you are and whatnot. Know yourself. And if you want to be pushed academically, if you want to be pushed athletically, then choose a place that's going to push you. If you want to be comfortable in one of those areas, choose an institution that's going to do that for you, and be self-aware in that process. I think a lot of times people will make decisions that they think the world wants them to make. And at the end of the day, if you're going to be happy, you're going to be self-aware with what you want and with what's going to serve you best.
Right. And I think that's probably a really great place to wrap up. So I'm actually going to ask Emily to share her advice that she has for picking a school, because college search process, that is the question. We've definitely dumped a lot of advice and a lot of information, perspective on how to make that decision, but when it comes to being a student athlete and picking a school, what what advice did you receive to help you, make that decision?
I think, a big thing would be to be you in the process. Like, this recruiting process is very stressful and hard and scary. And a lot of times you try to be something that you're not throughout it, or you just are so caught up in trying to impress the coach or the program, things like that, that you are not really taking into account what you like about the program or the institution as a whole. And then just on that note, I would say pick the institution for the institution. And this doesn't matter what level it is. If it's Division I, Division II, NAIA, or Division III, junior colleges, pick the institution for the institution, as though volleyball wasn't in your life anymore. And that sounds the sport that you're playing isn't in your life anymore. And that sounds so like, why would I ever do that? But we're all one injury away from not playing the sport we love, or one, day waking up and realizing, maybe that you are going to choose a different path, things like that. And I think that you can't go wrong by really having that picture in your head of, what does this institution do to serve me well and help me grow in these next 4 years? What about you, Caitlin Harper? What's your
advice? I have so much advice for going through the college search process. I definitely agree with Emily to be as authentic and take this opportunity to do some serious soul searching and be self-aware, make decisions that are based off of you and not anything else. And then to use your resources. So by watching this video, by accessing resources that are available to you through your community, through your high school, through family and friends, asking questions never goes wrong. And that is what we are here for. You are going to find a lot of very willing people that are going to help you get to where you want to be. And go through this process with you. So with that, thank you very much for watching. And I think I can speak on behalf of Emily as well, that we both wish you, the very best, and good luck.
Thanks, guys.